Is brought to you by the Patterns of Possibility, where we help people make more meaningful relationships in both their personal and professional life. Hi, I'm Coach Lee Hopkins. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I want to welcome you to the Engaged Employee Podcast. Our mission is to emphasize the relationship between the employee and the workplace with the goal of enhancing engagement levels to create a more productive and satisfying work environment. While many organizations strive to create a more engaging atmosphere, they often miss the mark by forcing connection with big team building events like axe throwing or escape rooms. Those activities only leave employees with a short-lived sense of belonging. Organizations may also try smaller and more suffocating events like happy hours or group birthday celebrations that their employees feel obligated to attend. As a social connections and business culture coach, I've found that to create a stable, engaged, and productive workforce, there needs to be a shift in focus from mandatory fun and manufactured connection towards building trust and authentic conversation. Join me and a guest as we dive into social wellness strategies for the individual employee, techniques for developing interpersonal relationships with coworkers, and even some approaches for leaders to enrich the overall organizational culture. The Engaged Employee Podcast starts now. Hello, welcome to the Engaged Employee Podcast. My name is Coach Lee, and my guest today is Aleasa Word. Aleasa Word. Word. We talked about behind the scenes how she gets all kinds of names because her name is spelled the way it is. But this is the word. Aleasa is an internationally certified emotional intelligence coach, speaker, and inclusion consultant. She is the principal of A Word and Company and founder of the Compassion for Anaphylaxis Outreach and Sisters in Business Network Gwinnett. She uses what she calls the perfect recipe, very excited, the perfect recipe consisting of emotional intelligence, conflict resolution, trauma-informed approaches, effective communication, and inclusion strategies for optimal success. Our conversation today will be focused on wellness for the company culture at large. Aleasa, how are you doing?
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Wow, I was listening to that intro going, who are you talking about?
Well, I'm so glad to have you here today because your energy is really, really infectious and it's a lot of fun. And I know that you are a unique guest here because I've never had anyone talk about anaphylaxis and all the recipe that you put together. I see what you did there. It could be food allergy and it's a recipe for success. Maybe I'll just put that together all by myself. But Aleasa, we want to know more about you. So can you tell us, how did you find yourself in this expertise? What is it that you do exactly and how did you find yourself there?
Interesting journey, interesting story. So I have a family member who had 13 life-threatening food allergies that were airborne, contact, and ingestible. And I was thrown into a space where I had no clue how to manage a situation. And when I started looking for support, I didn't find people that looked like me, lived like me, ate like us, or had the challenges that we were facing. So I
Mm.
started out doing safety training in the food allergy space, helping childcare providers to understand that this particular hidden disability was something that we needed to, support people on, talk to about, kids and things like that. And what I learned really quickly was that many people didn't care. It
Oh,
wasn't their problem. It wasn't their child. And it was more of a burden to them than it was something that, they felt like they could do something about, because it was like there were so many different foods and things like that. I also noticed that it became of particular concern for families based on the cultural dynamic of the families. So I figured, you know what, they needed more. I
mm.
decided to go to school, became a coach. And then when it came time to pick a niche in my coaching practice, I was at this crossroads. What do I do? But it all came down to two words: emotional intelligence.
Oh,
Because emotional intelligence is about self awareness, management of yourself, as well as the way that you manage your experiences with other people. And so I was able to combine all of that with what I was doing. And it seemed really strange at first, but my business started out at first being called allergy words consulting, because we were talking about allergies, but there were these words that people were saying and throwing around where we didn't understand how we were impacting others and impacting ourselves.
Ah,
And then eventually the company morphed into where it is now, which is A Word and Company, because I do want to have a word with you and I want to talk to your company. I want to talk to your people, all these different folks about things. So I still do a lot of work in that space, but it really comes down to, even in those spaces, whether it's that tech, corporate, wherever you have leaders in those spaces. You have individual contributors in those spaces. And every single one of us, we're connected to someone in the community. And when we've got 1 in 13 people with life-threatening food allergies, we need to stand up and pay attention. So it all comes full circle.
absolutely. Wow, what a story. And I liked one of the things that I grabbed onto when you're talking about this emotional intelligence is managing the experience around us, because I don't think that's talked about enough. Because of course you have these life-threatening allergies. You have some allergies. I myself have a peanut allergy. It smells awful. I don't enjoy the taste of it. It feels doesn't. Must have ingested it 3 times in my life, and it was all just awful. So I get the allergy piece and managing my experience around others who might want to eat it, or how I'm in the space, and it's not their problem. And so you really come into this with emotional intelligence, and I'm not upset, or I can't be upset, or you have to change for me. I'm managing my own experience. So I really find that profound and important to point out. So I'd like to know, like, what are some of the things that you do to help your clients? How do you help them, and how does this relate to these organizations overall who have those individuals who may be struggling with an allergy or unseen or invisible ailment?
Well, the thing of it is that what I've done is I've taken my own experiences and been able to put that into the work that I do. And whether that's a person who's in the food allergy space or somebody who's at a Fortune 500 company, tech company, or whatever that is, I've taken those experiences and realized that just like a person can be allergic to something where it triggers something that becomes, could become life threatening, it could become very negative, it could become very altering to the situation. We do the same things day to day in our lives. We have conversations with people that are inappropriate. We say things that are inappropriate. We bring behaviors into the workplace that do not benefit the performance or the outcomes or even the development of individuals that we work with. So, what I've done is I've taken that component, which now is more along the lines of volunteerism in that, and taken that into the business space and said, what did I learn from this? And how do I now give this to my clients? How do I help my clients? Because at the end of the day, emotions drive people and people drive performance. The company that I do my assessments through, that's one of their taglines that they use. And I've really grasped onto that because as a leader or even as an individual, we at some point have stakeholders, whether those it's B2B or B2C, we have people that we're providing services and or solutions for. So how do we come to market in the best way possible to be able to drive performance, drive revenue, drive innovation, drive creativity? We look at all the things that we are, and I'll use small quotation marks, allergic to, and use those things and say, what are the things that are eliciting this reaction in me that's not helpful, this reaction in me that is, adverse to the outcomes that I'm looking for. And I take that and put that into the work that I'm doing, whether it would be with a leader who needs leadership development or an individual contributor who needs to simply learn how to be a team player or to become more creative or more innovative in the workplace.
Wow, that is beautiful. I love how you married all of that together. I'd be curious to know about how you implemented it in workplace. Could you tell us maybe, because there are some things that we're allergic to. I like the analogy we're allergic to, where someone brings something to the table or to the performance that doesn't really help produce. So could you tell us how you've implemented your system to help them handle those situations?
Absolutely. So the work that I do, I utilize assessments that are used in over 140 countries. They are scientifically validated assessments. They're also normed for diversity. And in these assessments, we're able to measure your emotional intelligence as well as predictors of success, meaning your success outcomes in the areas of well-being, influence, effectiveness, how you're balancing your life, those sorts of things. And also with that, we have competencies that we look at. We look at everything like, are you pursuing your noble goal? Meaning that what is a North Star that guides you every day? And how do you align how you show up in the world to that noble goal? things like, how do you apply consequential thinking? How do you make decisions? What's your drive? What's your drive look like? What's your focus look like? Because all of those different pieces are things that are going to be beneficial for someone's success. So once I do an assessment and I'm able to look at these indicators, then I'm able to go through a process of discovery with my clients as they tell me the story about how it is that these things are showing up in their life. So then we can connect the dots between those and the areas where they might face some challenges. And each of us are showing emotional intelligence every day. We use it every single day, although we don't call it that. We use it every day. But my goal is to help people to grow their emotional intelligence. It is a growable, learnable, manageable skill set. It's not like your IQ that's fixed. You can do this, and it's not a soft skill. It's really data. Our emotions tell us a story. And if we know the story, we produce the data and our performance increases.
Applause all around. I'm over here shaking my head like a bobblehead. I'm like, yes, yes, all of these things. You can definitely improve your emotional intelligence because I felt like I had zero until I even became aware of it. And then I grew my emotional intelligence, and I'm a much better and much easier person to work with these days than I was before when I had no awareness of it. But along the way of understanding my emotional intelligence and me, I found myself just kind of in these behaviors that would stop me from moving forward. Like I would get stuck and I would self-sabotage. I would self-sabotage. And I understand that you have something to help along with that because that is an event that might happen when you become more aware of yourself and you're like, oh, I'm improving, I'm changing, and for some reason I want to go back. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to go back because we get in this ambivalence type of position where we know we need to change something. We have the information and we don't know what to do with it. And we get stuck in analysis paralysis, right? So
Hmm.
one of those things that we do then, to your point, is we self-sabotage. I have a ebook that is free, that people can download that ebook, and there are some quick tips in there on how to reduce that self-sabotage for yourself because it's something that we all do. We overanalyze, we underanalyze, we let fears and those sorts of things get in the way. And I really want to be able to help people to make that shift and that change and go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
Yes, that fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So overcoming the sabotaging is exactly what I could have used back in the day to help me with that. And if you want to get that, I'll have the link in the show notes for that. You'll be able to get that. It's absolutely free. There's nothing to lose with that, everything to gain. So go check that out so you can get to a closer to a growth mindset. Now, with that said, I wonder if there's some actionable step that you could share with us for the organization. What can they do today to help them get closer to implementing this emotional wellness growth mindset for their employees?
Shameless plug, besides booking me for a consultation, what they can do actually is really think about what it is that you want to provide for your stakeholders, the people that you serve. Are your stakeholders your internal clients, your external clients? What do you want to provide? And how can you improve the performance of yourself, your staff, to be able to do that? So, an actionable step there is to truly get a grasp on what skill sets your people need support in. I can provide a whole dashboard on your entire team to help them so that we can now narrow down some of the skill sets that they need because oftentimes people are just in the wrong position, right? So we
Mhm.
need to be able to find out where the gaps are. You can do a gap analysis to do that. Find out where the gaps are. Find out if this is a skill issue or if it's just the wrong person in that seat issue. Those are some steps that you want to look at first. And then every organization should have someone who is dedicated to making sure that they improve their own leadership development skills and the skills of your individual contributors as it relates to emotional intelligence, because that is a predictor of success. And
Mhm.
emotional intelligence correlates to 53% of our performance.
Wow. Those are some serious numbers.
It's data.
It's just data. And now you have the data, you can take action on the data. So I understand you also be speaking about, so I was going to say, where can we find you? Where can we find you? But I was so excited to hear that you're going to be speaking. Can you tell us a bit about where you're going to be speaking?
Couple of different things I have going on. One that I would have just finished up here at this point. I have run a group, a collective of business owners called Sisters in Business Network. It's in the Gwinnett County area of Georgia, but we kind of pretty much have spread out everywhere, and we're actually spreading to a couple different places. So we do a tea and tablets event where we actually help these women business owners to really start to hone in on their skill sets. They can be seen, heard, and referred. So I'll be speaking at that event. Our TCB, Taking Care of Business, which actually is going to be taxes, credit, and branding.
Nice.
So that, well, I guess I spoke already of that. So that's something we're going to continue doing. But also coming up, I have the Food Allergy Influencers Conference, and I'll be speaking there with regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and pulling in that emotional intelligence component to that as well. So there will be everyone from families there to organizations to, pharma companies and different folks that'll come into that space, and they'll hear me speak on that as well. So I'll be able to wrap this all up, put a nice little bow on it, and then they'll be able to take home some information.
The perfect recipe. Thank you so much, Aleasa. So tell us now that we know where you're going to speak, tell us where we can actually find you and connect with you and book a consultation.
Absolutely. So you can find me at awordandcompany.com, which is my website. You can also find me on most of your social platforms at I am Ms. Word, IAMMZWORD. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn by looking up my name. So if you Google me, you'll find me everywhere.
All right. Thank you so much. Go ahead and Google her. Go ahead and have a conversation with her, connect with her. She's full of knowledge and actionable steps and information to help you build the kind of relationships that you want in your space, in your organization, whether it be for individual. It sounds like you have a perfect recipe for all of those, even though you only spoke on one, the individual, the interpersonal, and the whole organization. So go check her out. Thank you so much, Aleasa, for coming on the podcast and sharing all of your amazing insights.
Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. If you deal with the people, you deal with the company, and it all gets better.
Another insightful episode of the Engaged Employee Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the deep dive into the world of employee engagement, leadership, and workplace dynamics. The Engaged Employee Podcast is brought to you by the Patterns of Possibility, where we help people make more meaningful relationships in both their personal and professional life. Before we wrap up, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our incredible guests and, of course, our loyal listeners. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you valuable content each week. If you found today's discussion thought-provoking and want to learn more about how we can help you or your organization make more meaningful relationships, go to patternsofpossibility.com and book a friendly conversation with me. Or you can email me your questions at patternsofpossibility@gmail.com. Stay connected with us and engage with fellow listeners by following the Patterns of Possibility on LinkedIn. You can also catch us on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to stay in the loop. And if you prefer the audio version, make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Your support means the world to us, and by subscribing, you'll never miss an episode. Thank you for being a part of our journey to create workplaces where passion meets productivity. Until next time, I'm Coach Lee. Stay engaged, stay inspired.